And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at a game called Rattle, Battle, Grab the Loot. This is an entertaining name, and it's from a company that I like a lot, Portal Games. They make some fantastic games. This one designed by Ignacy Trzewiczek, and I really like his style. And when I heard that this game involved throwing dice into a box, that was actually part of the game, I was very excited about it. It's also a pirate-themed game, and it comes with like a billion components, all hitting the right carbines here. Let's check it out. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to take their main ship. So you see you put it together like this. It's made up of 3 pieces here. You also get a captain card for yourself. Players will have different ships. You know, actually the ships all have different fronts and backs that you'll put together. But you'll also be able to customize your ship a bit. You can add holds to the ship. So these holds will be able to hold goods as the game goes by. And they can even be upgraded into super hulls later on. You can add cannons on your ship, and you can have sails that get added to your ship. And these will do a variety of things when you're in battle and throughout the game. You're also going to get 5 ships. You have your captain's ship, which you don't use all the time, but you have it. And then 4 other ships that are your color. Now, there's some setup training scenarios for the game, that the game comes with special cards for those. But when you're playing a normal game, you're going to follow scenario order. And this will tell you there's basically 5 quests, and each quest you're going to have several adventures, 1 to 3 adventures. So these says 2 green adventures. So I'll go from a pile of green adventures and draw 2 of those. Here you have 2 adventures and then a crazy adventure. And then there's red adventures, which are more difficult adventures that you have to do. And the crazy adventures have all sorts of weird things. They're very different than other adventures. Sometimes you're just throwing dice at each other, whatever. There's all kinds of strange things. However, when you have a scenario, you are going to be using the box. That's right. The inside of the box here is used over the course of this game. Now, there might be some terrain that's used in different scenarios, and there's all sorts of terrain that's included in the game. But you will often be fighting a bunch of NPC ships. So maybe this one here for, let's say, we're going to fight these NPC ships. So these are brought into the thing. And then each player will send their ships into battle. And these ships are then taken by one player who basically drops them in. Then, depending on the scenario, you're going to look at each of the NPC ships. So, for example, this one here is a volley. He might do something to another ship. Most of the time, the numbers don't do anything, but you're going to check each of the NPC ships that are all over the board and see if they do any damage or anything. After that, players will have a chance to attack the NPC ships. If they have cannons on their own ship, you can use 2 cannons of your own ship to shoot another ship and basically take it off the board as long as it's within short range. Now, the game comes with some markers and some things to keep track of range. There's even a measuring stick here to keep track of, if you're trying to find out who's farther away from something or not. Players can use 1 cannon to attack someone if there's a cannon showing, but you'll need to be within a short distance, and you have these cards, long distance and short distance. So you have a chance to shoot other ships. Then players are going to attack other ships, and whoever's the closest to each ship is going to attack that. But players also have during the shooting phase, players can use sails on their ship to move their ships, and they can move, and so maybe you want to get closer to another ship. You might be able to move and then shoot with a following action. But if there's any NPC ships left on the board after shooting is done, whoever's the closest and you measure, you'll just compare numbers. 5 beats 3. If there's symbols on the card, the scenario card itself will usually tell you what value those symbols are based on that scenario. You'll keep going until the ships have all been shot. If someone's next to a ship, there's a chance that they will board that ship, which gives you an extra loot token. And loot is the whole point of this. Each ship that you destroy gets you a coin, and since coins are a point at the end of the game, that's a pretty big deal. But you're going to get loot. The scenario will give everybody loot who participated in the battle, And then some people get extra loot if they board ships. You'll pull the loot randomly from a bag, and you'll sort on your ships. Each one of your ships that you has can hold one loot token, but then they can't participate in any more battles if there happens to be more battles left in that scenario. And your main ship can hold loot basically depending on how many holds they have. Eventually, though, you're going to finish the adventures, and you're going to go to port. Oh, there's port. So port here, which everyone can basically do at the same time, you can go here and spend the loot tokens that you have. At the market, you can trade any two for one of another. At the tavern, you can pay 2 rum, and you can hire a sailor. And the sailors can do different things, like this guy here can ready an upgrade. So if you have an upgrade, he can let you use it more than once. This guy here in the pit, he can spend 1 to get 1 coin. So over here, he can do something different to get different items. So the sailors are basically special abilities. In the shipyard, you can add more sails, which let you move, more holds, which let you carry things, and more cannons, which let you attack. Over at the workshop, you can buy special things. Like here, I might get the turbine engine. And what's cool is that each of these special things comes with a piece that you can find and put on your ship. And so there's all sorts of things. You have this, which lets you ram enemy ships, and you have a big giant cannon that you can add, and here's a double cannon, all sorts of things that you can buy at the workshop. You draw the card. At the pit, you can get money. Money is useful because, hey, it's points at the end of the game. And at the guild, you can pay money to buy victory point cards. Now, since most of the victory point cards come from these cards, and this one you pay 5 to get 6, and it goes all the way down to you paying 12 to get 15 points, these are the main way to get points, these and money, and some pirate cards give you special points for different things. That's the game in a nutshell. There's a lot more, little rules and things from different scenarios, but that's generally how it plays. At the end of a certain number of quests, whoever has the most points is the winner. You notice in the last quest, there's one big final adventure. So like here's one, the final duel. You see there's a lot of NPC ships to fight, and there's lots of treasure and loot to get. So once you're done with that, you go to the port one last time, and then the game's over. There's no doubt that you're getting your money's worth in this game. From metal coins to custom dice to beautiful ships that all look different to pieces that fit on them, and you get to build your ship and put the different things on. People are going to really enjoy that part of it. The A+ on that regard. But I found this game amusing, but I don't think it's a very good game regardless. And I don't know that I would want to play it often, if at all. Which seems odd. But it's because the game, I can't figure out who the audience for this game is. In the rule book, near the very beginning of the rule book, there's basically a warning from them that basically says, hey, have a seat. We need to talk. Thanks for buying this. But guess what? It's going to be super lucky. You got that? It's going to be super duper lucky. Okay, well, that warning I now pass on to you. The game is crazy lucky. Now, that's not a big deal. I like games that have lots of luck in them. The problem is this game can't decide whether it's a short, lucky game or this big, grandiose game. See, the fact is, when you throw those dice in the box, or drop them in the box, whatever, when you put the dice in the box, you don't know where they're going to go, and your ships might just go into corners. It doesn't matter how many upgrades you have. It doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to do well. That's fine. Hopefully over the game that will balance out, but it doesn't always. These upgrades that you have and the different things, those are random as you get them. But when you fight other ships, different random things will happen. And that's okay again, but then that's balanced with this measure. So I'm using the short side of the card and I'm kind of measuring where ships can go, and there's like, don't bump the box, I'm going to measure, move my ship. And it almost feels like this mini miniatures game, which is kind of at odds with something that's random. Not to mention you get all these cool upgrades for your ship, but they're all random. You pull random loot from the bag. You need different types of loot to do different things. You might not pull the kinds you want. So there's random dice throwing. There's random loot pulling. There's there's random card drawing and upgrade getting. There's almost no planning in the game, and yet the game is over an hour long and is pretty involved for that level of randomness. So this is pretty. This is exciting, kind of, although the throwing the dice in a box is not nearly as interesting as I thought it was. You drop them and it's like, oh. I don't know how to explain it. I just wish there was more oomph to that. There's some of those entertaining adventures are okay, but again, the whole thing is more of this overwrought Little Lucky game, and I think a Little Lucky game would have been a better pull. I can't recommend this. I don't that it's a bad game per se. I just don't think it's going to appeal to many people. Some people like throwing the dice. Some people like the whole miniature thing. Some people like the crazy luck. I don't know that there's many people who will like all of them. And that's unfortunate. I had high hopes for this one, but it's just not for me. Dice Tower Judgment just doesn't meet the mark.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!